Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. 26 degrees right here in the nation's capital. Week 2 of 2025. Welcome. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Well, I'll take the 6. Today is January 6th. Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. Well, I'm going to stay in Lagos, Kayla, so you can come with me. And this is one of those places in the city of Lagos, one of the most popular places in the city of Lagos is this particular area of town. Now, there are quite a number of places you will hear when you hear about Lagos. You hear about Ujuelegba, you hear about Ajegunle, but this is the Apapa-Oshodi Expressway. Now, on a normal day, in the thick of things, this road is way busier than it looks right now. This is Apapa-Oshodi Expressway, and this route now, Apapa is the seaport, is where we have the seaports in Lagos, and it's where business is done. Imported goods come into Apapa, Tinkan Island, and all the stuff, and so that's the kind of thing you normally would have. However, a situation where the road is this scanty, no trucks on Apapa-Oshodi Expressway. Kayla, please, be forewarned and be forearmed. It is not normal to have this road this light. It's a major arterial road in Lagos, and it is something that we don't, the city of Lagos doesn't joke with. Actually, recently, between the federal government and some private organizations, I think it was Dangote and NNPC, they collaborated to fix the roads. This Apapa-Oshodi Expressway is through some kind of arrangement with the federal government, and that is why the road is this wonderful. Okay, I can see one truck now. But on a normal day, trucks are a lot on this road. Perhaps underscoring the fact that the holiday makers aren't quite done, Kayla.
I mean, I think I have an idea about this place, and you're absolutely correct. What we used to hear, don't follow our papa. There's hold up there. You have to find another way if you're heading somewhere. But it's interesting to see all of this clear road, which means a lot has been done. So kudos to the Lagos State government. I don't know if this is permanent. I don't know if this is a temporary respite for the people who follow that road. But yes, lovely skyline, by the way. The city of Lagos in itself is a beautiful place. High-rise buildings, good road connectivity, you know, some greenery at the places where greenery is supposed to be. And then, of course, the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. So it's lovely to see Lagos this morning. Clear roads, which I think means, Ayo, that many people are not back yet.
Well,
will it be the same?
Well, that's what it's looking like. That's what it's looking like. That's what it's looking like. And to be honest, Kayla, to be quite honest and to be generous, the road traffic in Lagos is way more predictable now than ages ago, because the roads have, particularly the major highways, I'm not talking about hinter roads, about connecting roads, but particularly the major highways are a lot more predictable now than before. You can guess, okay, normally this is what will happen at this time, this is what will happen at this time. Excuse me, but if there is ever a traffic buildup on any major highway in Lagos, something has happened. And hey, on the one hand, we are grateful that governments, federal and states, have been able to fix the major highways. On the other hand, is our own driving culture. A number of times I'm coming to the office and I encounter traffic that I shouldn't encounter. I remember that day that I was in that traffic about 2 hours, the 20-minute jolly ride, like I'm not speeding, 20 minutes to the office. And here I was in the traffic for 2 solid hours. So if there is ever any traffic in Lagos, particularly on major highways, something has happened somewhere. Because if you're going on the Third Mainland Bridge, for instance, you can guess, okay, this is the normal time it'll take me to get to this place because of this particular bottleneck or that particular bottleneck. But should it be more than that? Something has happened. And I think it's the same thing for this Agboshodi Expressway. By the time business picks up, or maybe later in the month of January and into February, everyone would have recalibrated into 2025, and I guess we'll get into our reality.
Indeed. Lovely skyline there. And I remember when the story came out about the drainage system collapsing in this area. It looks like it's been fixed, at least from what I'm seeing here. So good morning, Lagos, and we hope you have a fantastic day ahead. Now, we have quite a lot of things to talk about today on the program. And I'm going to start off, well, most of it has to do with the FCT. So we'll start off with that, and then we'll go into our conversation for the day. Now, the first thing is this trending video online about manhole covers being stolen all over the FCT. For that particular video, this one that you're looking at right now is actually from the Central Business District. Why are we bringing this up? Because it's a recurring decimal. We've talked about it so many times, about these manhole covers being stolen. And it's not just manhole covers, light fixtures, rails, all kinds of things. The vandalism of critical infrastructure in the nation's capital has become endemic. And it's one that the FCT minister really has to look into. Over the years, we've had conversations with the commandant of the NSCDC for the nation's capital. His name is Olushola Odumusun. And a few times that we've talked about, these infrastructure being stolen, because, they are the ones who are supposed to protect critical infrastructure. And he said, look, as NSCDC, we're doing our best to ensure that these things are not stolen. We're doing what we can. We put men in and around the FCT. However, there are endemic issues. One of them being that these manhole covers are reusable. If they were made, if we can come out of the regular construction of manhole covers and create manhole covers that cannot be reused, that would go a long way in discouraging people from from stealing them and melting them and selling. If it was made of some kind of material that if you put into the fire, it would melt or be destroyed, that would be something to discourage those who keep stealing these manhole covers. And if you notice, these manhole covers are along the express, which means that this is an accident waiting to happen. So I really hope that the FCT, and kudos really to the person who brought out that trending video yesterday. It's a very big issue in the nation's capital. That's number one, the material which the manhole covers are made of. Number two is the fact that the Panteka market in the FCT is not as regularized as it should be. And this is actually coming from the NSCDC when we spoke to them. Look, that market, they say, needs regularization or be removed. Because as long as there's a place to sell these things, people will continue to vandalize them and sell them. All right, so one, the material used to make manhole covers has to be different. We can't use these products that are reusable. Number two is the fact that the Panteka markets where these things are taken to is not regularized. Now, they have raided the NSCDC, the police. They have raided the Panteka market so many times, arrested so many people. But the crime continues. Why? Because there's a market for it. So there's some way that we can look into this situation. Out of the box thinking, the FCT minister really has to get into this, and then, find some permanent solution to this problem, because it is one that can cost people their lives. And finally, the beggars are back in the FCT. At the Wuse 2 axis, you cannot stay at a traffic light these days. And if you're in the FCT and you've witnessed this, because it's been terrible for the past few weeks, if you have, you can reach us on YouTube, on channelstv.com on YouTube, and tell us what your experience is. My experience was that two people will come to the front of the car, and then they are begging and, doing rankadede for you, begging you. But then there's a third person trying to open up your back door. I have seen this myself in Wuse 2. So yes, the beggars are back. Whatever kind of rehabilitation plan was created for them, whatever kind of thing can be done so that we can have peaceful traffic and actually have a clean FCT, one that is devoid of, street hawkers and beggars and things like that. That's something that the FCT minister has to look into. Ayo, what are your thoughts on these?
Well, what's interesting, Kayla, is that, let me begin with the manhole issue you raised. It's not really peculiar to Abuja City, and it is bad. I mean, for those who have seen that video, you would know that if you're not careful, you will run into those manholes, and guess what? you will lose more than a car. You will lose the entire suspension system of your vehicle if you are not careful. And you don't. This is showing like it's not on the major highway, but believe me, some of them are on asphalt. The leads have been removed from off of the road. And this vandalism is not just limited to manholes. When I was growing up, and I think that's kind of subsided now, but I understand that at some point the Minister of Works, I'm not sure whether it was the current one or the previous Ministers of Works, have complained that some railings installed on major highways were removed by Nigerians. And yes, Kayla, they are reusable materials. And some of them are taken somewhere to create hangers for clothes. Oh yes, these things really do happen. And this particular vandalism I'm talking about dates back into the 80s, into the 90s, into the early 2000s. These things are well known and well documented. The fact that they are happening should give us concern. So it has happened in Lagos, and it's probably still happening in Lagos because we understand that the Lagos state government has often reported theft of manhole covers, leading to accidents and increased maintenance costs. So the authorities have considered alternatives like using reinforced concrete covers to deter theft. Let's hope that that works. Because some of these things, I mean, how light can they be? They're heavy stuff. How are you able to use whatever to cut such metal? It's definitely not cheap investment. Same thing we also understand have been reported in Port Harcourt and even in Kano State, an economic hub where the city has also faced such manhole theft over time, often linked to the high demand for scrap metal. So I know that the Nigerian Governors Forum have what they call peer review mechanisms. Maybe this will help. The president is a former governor. He has dealt with it before. Let's hope that the people around him, even if the president is not watching TV right now, will be able to take some of these initiatives and either escalate them or at least send some messages around to ensure that these things don't continue, because if we don't have a maintenance culture, we will continue to spend money, and guess what? Putting money down the drain all the time. It's not a time to waste. It's a time to save and maximize whatever we have, Kayla.
I mean, we do have a visual of that Panteka market, just so we can understand what it is that we have to deal with. And you're absolutely correct. The reusableness of these products is a big issue. So what you're seeing right now are people from the Panteka market who had all of these stolen infrastructure, you know, and the place was raided, they were arrested. So these are some of the things that were found on them. You know, when look at that, you know, just so you can understand the magnitude of this. This is a big business that a lot of people are very invested in. So if you mentioned the president, you know, they can look at it from across the country. But this is just what we're looking at here. It's just from the FCT, and this is something that we deal with every week. You cannot even be on any of the WhatsApp groups of the NSCDC or the police. Every day there's someone who has been arrested with infrastructure, you know, sawed off because there's second-hand use for these things. And just, I know that there's a whole question it brings up about the patriotism, treating infrastructure as though it is ours. These are things that were paid for by us. So there's vigilance involved right now. If as a person living in whatever neighborhood, if you see something, say something. If you see someone walking suspiciously around manhole covers or around drainage systems, you know, and whatnot, whatever it is, if you see someone walking suspiciously, make sure you contact the NSCDC or contact the police so they can understand that this is happening in their neighborhood. This is just, and this is not for the whole year. This was just a few weeks ago, I think last week, that they got all these people with these things from the Panteka market. And the regularization of that Panteka market has become a crucial situation. Well, those are some of the things that we're looking at this morning, but we'll go on a short break. When we come back, we take our conversation to Edo State. We heard the PDP last week. Let's hear from the APC. We'll come back and talk soon. Stay with us.
Edo State High Court to Benin City issued a mandatory injunction restraining the state government, the governor, and other parties from meddling in local government affairs and operations until the substantive case has been heard and settled. Sadly, in total disregard of the obedience to the prevailing laws and orders of course, the state government has continued in its acts of lawlessness, contemptuous disregard of judicial orders, abuse of processes, and misuse of executive power, which dangerously portends the extermination of constitutional democracy in the state. We have also witnessed another very disturbing trend. The council chairmen are signatories to their accounts with their different councils. That's expected. What Mondokwebo and his cohorts are trying to do is to change the signatories to those accounts, making sure that the elected council chairmen that are supposed to be signatories to the account do not have signatories to their account. We want to warn the banks. If any bank obeys that illegal instruction, we will charge you for contempt of court. We will take you to court to make sure that if you illegally change the signatories to those accounts that are with you, we will charge you to court. Don't say we did not warn you.
Let's go to Edo State and have this conversation about local government autonomy. The twists and turns since December the 17th have continued to puzzle all of us. Everyone is wondering what's happening in Edo State. On Friday last week, defections to the APC, some of these local government, at least two of them from Ovia Southwest local government area and Owan West, along with 8 councillors and the other one with 5 councillors, defected to the All Progressives Congress. So what's really going on? Those accusations against the governor and this high-handedness that the APC has been accused of, what do they have to say about that? What we do know is that the All Progressives Congress has created some kind of panel of inquiry, so to speak. Let's call it that. Maybe they'll give us a different name when we start to speak with them. That's supposed to look into this situation of local government chairmen not being able to function. And then this finance situation, the side of the governor that says they refuse to drop their finances. We asked them to submit their finances and they didn't. And then invoking section 10, subsection 1 of the Edo State local government rules, saying, oh, you're supposed to do this, it's misappropriation, and then some sort of inability to obey your governor when he tells you to do something. But we've also heard that there's a court case that says this is not true. You cannot even use that section. So let's hear what their plans are. From the All Progressives Congress, we have with us Barrister Andrew Mwata. He's a member of the committee I told you about that is set up to probe suspended chairman. Also a member of the Asset Verification Committee. Thank you so much, Barrister Andrew Mwata, for being with us on Sunrise Daily.
Yeah, thank you, Ayo, from Lagos. And to our brother Ayo is in Lagos, then Kela, Abuja.
Good morning. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy, and of course, Happy New Year to you and to our viewers. Yeah.
It's good to have you on the program. So let's understand. I know that there's some rejoicing in the APC right now because there were some defections. Are these defections as a result, because many people have said that these people that are defecting to the APC is just because they don't want any problem with the governor? Is that the view there?
Just to correct an impression, the decisions that the House of Assembly made was not based on the provisions of Section 10 of the Edo State Local Government Law of 2000, because that one has to do with dissolution, but it was based on the clear provision of Section 20 of the Edo State Government Law that deals with the issue of suspension, where you have a case of financial misappropriation of malfeasance, and allows the governor, in consultation with the House of Assembly, to suspend local government chairman or his vice for a period of just 2 months while that inquiry is on. And I will say this right of reply affords us the opportunity of correcting some of the concussions and half-truths taught out by a PDP member who you said appeared before your program sometime last week. So in answering your first question, it is important for me to highlight some honest.
I mean, I think we're having a bit of a problem with that connection while we try to get that connection back. Thanks for that correction, by the way, Section 20 of the Local Government Act. And just so we can give some kind of background as to everything that has been going on, we do know that the councillors in the local government areas, all of them suspended for 2 months. Also, the 18 local government chairmen had been complaining, and we're hearing all of them. Remember, when they were all elected into office, they were all members of the People's Democratic Party. The question now became, with a new governor who is from the All Progressives Congress, how were they going to continue ruling? That question had always sort of been there, but with everything that's happened, we've seen the suspension, the removal really of those 18 local government chairmen, and them complaining that they can't even access their offices, accusing the APC of hiring thugs, saying these thugs came from the government house themselves, and all of that has caused some unrest. We've heard people from the People's Democratic Party, at least we had them last week, talking a little bit about how this has affected governance in the state and the ripple effect this would have on issues like the judiciary, the authority of the judiciary, because there is an Edo High Court that has said that suspension was wrong. What happens afterwards? How do we have peace in Edo State? How do the people enjoy governance? And is this something that everybody will sort out eventually? It's also brought to our minds the questions about party loyalties and what political parties actually stand for. Is this about personal interest? Is it about national interest? What is the situation in this part of the country? And I think I'm going to bring Ayo in while we're trying to sort out that particular network issue with our friend from the All Progressives Congress, Barrister Andrew Mwata. Let's see if we can get some kind of background really from Ayo on this particular matter.
Kayla, my thoughts on this particular situation goes back to the very basis, first of all, of the Constitution. What does the Constitution say? And it is unequivocal that the local governments are supposed to have some measure of autonomy from the state governments. How right or wrong that is clear from what the Supreme Court has ruled. The Supreme Court has already made the declaration. You guys let the money go straight from the Federation account into the accounts of the local government administrations. Now, one of the questions that I've often asked is, if the federal government, the Federation is supposed to give some money to the local governments directly, the Constitution states that the state government should also put some money into that coffer. Does that money go in there? Now, it'll probably take a while for us to get used to the new reality that local governments are autonomous, just like state governments, who have, over the years, buffeted the federal government for being so intrusive of states. Now, it is for states to recognize that they are also being intrusive on the affairs of the local government administrations. And please, it's not rocket science. It is there in the Constitution what the functions of the local governments are. Clear, written in words. So I guess it's only a matter of time. The AGF has already reiterated what the Supreme Court says, Kayla, so I guess time will tell.
We have Barrister Mwata back. Yes, Barrister, talk to us a little bit about these accusations against the APC.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to establish the fact that in Edo State, the law was followed, both to the letter and to the spirit. So in answering that question you asked before, it's important for me to highlight some unassailable points. There is no doubt that democracy has come to stay in Nigeria. Like every other life endeavor, democracy has its own rules of engagement. Before and after the 2022 general elections in Nigeria, the outgone PDP administration of Governor Obaseki ran the 18 local government councils in Edo State with sole administrators, who the governor labeled as liaison officers. What we have presently in Edo are persons duly elected as honorable leaders of the defending arm who either by virtue of the recent impeachment or suspension of both the chairman and vice chairman of the local governments affected have become occupants of the office of chairman. These people were elected by the people, and for the reasons known to law, they are now occupants of that office, not people unknown to the law. So the situation was made even clearer by our Edo State Local Government Law. Section 19 allows the councillors to impeach both the chairman and the vice, and 20 talks about suspension. And of course, this law was made pursuant to Section 7, sub 1 of the 1999 Nigerian Constitution, as amended, which provides that a system of democratically elected local government councils is guaranteed under the Constitution. And the Constitution went further to empower the State House of Assembly to make laws regulating the existence, establishment, structure, and finance and functions of these local governments. I mean, the local government councils. And you know, the Edo State Local Government Laws is a byproduct of the constitutional arrangement fully related by the drafters of our Constitution. What we are seeing in Edo is a clear case of people making noise. The PDP ragtag ESCO were here when Obaseki appointed some administrators. Even the APC did not engage them. With these people, they organized the elections of last year. The heavens did not fall. But we have a case of the government asking people to come and account for the monies they have spent. They refused to, the House of Assembly invited them, they refused to, the law was activated to suspend them. So in the course of the suspension, you discover that a panel of inquiry that was impaneled, which I'm a member of, we noticed too many malfeasance that, of course, these councillors got to know about. And as I speak to you, 5 of these chairmen have been impeached. 3 of them from Edo South, 1 in Edo, the one in Wode, and the one in Oyomo. You come to Edo North, the one in Owan East was impeached by his councillors. You go to Edo Central, the one in Esan West, Esan Central was impeached. So initially there was this argument, who has the power to remove local government chairman? And of course, the Attorney General of the Federation argued, and rightly so, that it is the councillors that can remove them permanently from office. What the governor did in conjunction with the House of Assembly is based on the provisions of the law. And we keep making reference to the Supreme Court decision. Yes, very beautiful, very dynamic. We should applaud that decision on financial autonomy. But it has more to do with the issue of control. Section 7 gives state control of local government, and the law is clear. They make laws for their establishment, existence, finance, and functions. And again, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in his present meeting with the governors forum, was very categorical that states remain under local government remain under control of states. Local governments, by the drafts of our constitution, are under the local collective control of state governments. It is not as those state government has been so, but the drafts of our constitution.
Barrister Nwata, I want to be able to get your thoughts on the fact that Barrister Nwata, the Attorney General of the Federation says, and I want to quote him, that the suspension at these local levels violates local government autonomy granted by the Supreme Court in July of last year. The Attorney General says it was wrong. What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you. The Attorney General even concluded by saying he does not have the facts of the case. Every case is decided on its merit. Yes, remember that the Supreme Court gave a decision. That decision is an unnamed. First was the issue of financial autonomy. That local government applications should be paid to them directly. Before I continue, let me quickly address that at the end of it. In Edo State, before now, Governor Obaseki as governor, when the allocation comes, one goes to a joint account. About 800 million was set aside in a particular account controlled by the Commissioner for Local Governments. It was this particular amount of money that the government wanted records on how this money was spent. It is interesting for Nigerians to note that part of this money was used to buy campaign vehicles for the campaign of House of Bilano, and my panel of inquiry has been able to establish some of those malfeasance. And what we are expressing is corruption fighting back. You find that 800 million was somewhere. Some party leaders were giving as much as 7 million more. These funds are meant for development. When we came, we realized that there was nothing to show for the billions of dollars that these local governments have collected. Not even a single project has been executed within the last 1 year. The people are trying to do more. It's simple. The Supreme Court said, pay these monies directly. The government is willing to do this, but it said that you must first account for the billions of dollars you have collected. For 2 years in this state, Obasanjo ran local government with appointees. Not even a single elected councillor was in government when councils were run for 2 years. They said that we don't have institutional memory. Within the last 1 year, we have elected people, nothing to show for it, but rather we have an 800 million somewhere where party leaders share. And the government said, no, we cannot continue like this. The people who removed this challenge across this part of the government were elected by people. These councillors were elected by people. The Supreme Court said you cannot dissolve the council, which is not the case in Africa. And according to the companies as Obasanjo.
All right, well, that's why we have to wrap it up with you there, because we need to have other conversations this morning. But thank you for your perspective and your point of view, and we'll get back to you shortly so we can have more conversations. And good luck to all of you in Edo State.
Say this, but let me repeat it again. The Constitution itself is weak in words and in action. It is weak in words because it lacks a moral authority. The Constitution we have today starts by the first 3 words, we the people, but it is false because we the people did not make that Constitution. That Constitution is a decree of a military government. So perhaps you're building on lies that lose moral value. The other thing is that the Constitution was not built thinking of the issues we're dealing with today. You see, if we sat with what we've gone through, with what you celebrate as the 26 years of evolution, which I disagree with. If we took it, okay, now that we're from our 26 years, not of evolution, but of experience, let us sit down and do a new constitution. You know, what's going to happen is that we're going to know that, okay, state government might want to walk over local government. So let us make it clear in that constitution that they are not allowed to. Question. What if something happens? Then we put the answer there. We're going to be very clear that this is a federation, so therefore states should be truly independent and autonomous of the federal government. So we're going to put it there. You know, there are things, for example, the other issue you're talking about, which I'm sure you're keen on, is the defection of people from one political party to the other. That again is the lack foundation, the idea that it really doesn't matter. Why do people leave one party and go to the other party? Because they got into politics not to serve, but to acquire power, acquire fame, and acquire wealth. So, and the way to acquire it is by being in government, especially power and wealth. If you're not in power, if you're not in government, you're in opposition, in a system like ours, it is easy to be tired of being in opposition because you don't get anything.
Ayo.
Well, thank you, Kayla. I think that's sufficient background to the conversation I'm having right now with our guest in the studio. Because if we look at it from godfatherism and vote buying to the rise of new ideological movements, the dynamics of our democracy, they demand closer scrutiny. So right now we have with us a political analyst, public policy expert, director of the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. He is also Jean Monnet professor. Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor Anthony Kayla.
Good to be here.
You've been definitely following the political evolution. Is the way I like to look at it.
Trajectory, more than evolution.
Well, are we not evolving?
No, it's a trajectory. But go ahead.
I mean, let's begin from there. Are we not evolving? I mean, this is the 26th year.
Well, I mean, the time has gone on, and I want our viewers to think about it. Whether you're a student, a trader, or religious person, whatever you do with your time will go. So the fact that we've been in 26 years does not mean it's an evolution per se. You know, if you were an evolution, everything will be improving. That's the whole point of evolution. You'll be going from the very basic to more sophisticated level. we are having ups and downs, and I think the right expression would be trajectory rather than evolution. What you call the background to our conversation is a proof that is not an evolution but a trajectory. But I'll let you go into the details.
No, I mean, because at least that understanding helps someone else to know that, in fact, because what I would have expected, okay, at least well, maybe some kind of shape shifting, you know, excuse me, from one thing to the other. What do you think, what can you say is keeping us seemingly where we are, just following the routine? Is it the style of government? Is it the type of democracy we're practicing? Or is it the people?
Well, I think it's a bit of everything, but overall, it's a weak foundation that is causing it. The weak foundation make it so that we call ourselves a federal republic, and we do not act as a federal republic, partly because we do not take deep cognizance of what it means to say federal republic. It's a bit of, you know, like people say, I love you, not knowing the deep meaning of that expression, of what it contains. Because if I love you, it means I'm going to be committed to you. It means I'm quasi, quote unquote, obsessed with you. It means you are the one that matters most in my life. So we use expressions in Nigeria where we don't really mean them because we just use them, perhaps because we don't understand them, but sometimes because it's not convenient to commit to them. If you're a federal republic, the first thing, allow me to say, is that if it's a republic, the first thing is that religion will not matter in a republic. It will also mean, for example, that calling the president or the governor your father will not be in a republic. Because it's a republic, it's going to be something of equals. If we want to call it something else, let's feel free. If we want to do babaism, let's be free to call it whatever we want, you know, but let's be factual at least. If you call it a federal republic, it means it has to be federal in everything. It means that the composing units of a federation will be autonomous, independent, and different within themselves. Autonomous and independent from the central body, and different within themselves, economically, socially, and a lot of things. You know, those are the things that are missing. So this thing, how do you ensure them? You need a foundation that will agree to that. And that foundation, that weak foundation, is what allows people to behave in self-serving, strange, and, you know, quite frankly, destructive way, because they can get away with it. So, for example, one of the things we're talking about is the ease with which local government chairmen can be dismissed. Regardless of what happens, if we truly imbibe the democratic value that these people are elected, these people are representing the voices of the people, the votes of the people that put them there. Before you suspend them, it has to be a very big disaster. You know, it has to be something major. You can't just suspend them for administrative things. And above all, you never suspend them if it appears as if it's illegal, or it appears as if it's a vendetta, or if it appears as if you're doing it against people who are not with you. You know, those are the kind of mindset that the foundation will allow for us to get right. But the foundation has to be clear that local government chairman has to be autonomous, independent, and it should not be pushed around.
But what other local, foundation could there be that would be stronger than the Constitution?
No, nothing. Perhaps the culture. The only thing that will be stronger than the Constitution is the culture, but the Constitution itself is not strong enough. That's part of the problem we have.
When you say the Constitution is not strong enough, please help me understand.
Well, I've had causes.
When we had the SDP and the NRC, you know, we kind of knew what the SDP stood for and knew what the NRC stood for. Even when the PDP started, we kind of knew, okay, this is what the PDP stands for. When the APC started as well, you know, we could tell, okay, this is a group of people who are disgruntled about this, came together to form this so that they can take power. So everyone had what it is that they stood for. But now it does seem like nothing stands for anything. Anyone can just jump from one place to the other if they're trying to get their interest. And we heard Senator Magnus Abe say it on Friday. He said, we're politicians, we're all about personal interest. Has it gotten to where the national interest is not even on the table? Everyone is focused on personal interest. And you're a professor. How can this be fixed?
Well, let's see how we get there first, how we got to where we are. Really, we got to where we are because, contrary to what you say, you've been too generous with your memory on history. Contrary to what you say, there was no major difference, neither from the PDP in the initial stage or the AD or the other party. I want people to remember that Bola Ige wrote the manifesto of most of these parties, moving from one place to the other. The foundation of APC was really a quest to grab power. Yes, there were lots of manifestos and programs, but what really made it a party that can win power is because a huge chunk of other parties got together, and some of those parties were in the PDP. So in a way, what united them was a quest to remove Jonathan, not really to build a new country as we've seen now. And when I say as we've seen now, let's do a test, and our viewers to think about it. Of all the three major candidates that contested for presidency in 2023, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and of course, Bola Tinubu, their stances on a major issue like fuel subsidy is not very different, it's not very clear. They are in the origin of our problem. So maybe the people trying to ruin us are really similar. And if you look at all their history, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi were all in the PDP before. The same Atiku himself was one time in the APC. So you can understand that maybe they're very similar. And that is a problem itself, because those who have been ruling Nigeria, if you look at it, all tend to want to call themselves progressives. There is a general understanding in the Nigerian political elite that being a progressive is what is good, being a Democrat is what is good. Maybe we need to go back. Maybe we need to say, for starters, let us agree and hear your good self and people like Ayo and all the brotherhood of the media. We might have to rely on you to help us. So that when people come out, let's ask them precisely, what is the difference between you and the person you're contesting again? And maybe we can help them further by saying, dear sir, dear madam, in the next election, what are you going to do about this specific issue different from the other one? Where there might be no ideology, we might force them to at least give us some different ideas and different programs. Because, for example, on the issue of tax, we're hearing things like, it is anti-North, it is this, that. It just shows you, and you ask me the notion why we got here. We have put identity politics over politics of ideas and program. So we talk about zoning and rotation, we talk about ethnic, we talk about religious, we talk about balancing the ticket, and we talk very little about competence. Even if we cannot get ideology, which I am a big fan of ideology, but if we cannot get that, let us at least get ideas to know that what does this person stand for. Part of the problem we have also is that when we nominate people for positions, not even elections, you get a minister that you don't know what he or she stands for in the past. You can't Google them to see their stance of thing. If somebody wants to be a minister for a Greek, for heaven's sake, should we not have an idea of what he or she has been saying about agriculture in the past? And I don't mean that has to be an expert of agriculture. At least show some passion for it so that we know. You see, in an organized society, which I pray will become, actually, I say organized, I mean normal. In a normal society, if somebody becomes a minister for finance, those of us who follow finance and economy, we should be able to predict where he or she stands, because he's not going to discover finance overnight. Part of the problem we have is that there are people who have become ministers in this country, commissioners in this country, and it is the day before, the day after they get their nomination, that they start to go to Wikipedia to know what that ministry or topic is about. If you want a politics where people will not jump ship easily, we need to find a way, culture and constitution, that forces us to make sure that the people who manage our lives have been committed to that aspect of our lives before the day they get power.
I mean, I wanted to be able to talk to you a little bit about local government autonomy in itself,
Yes.
and vis-a-vis the Edo conundrum. I can't say that many of us were not shocked that this happened when Monday Okpebholo became governor of the state, because we see that dynamic. If the governor is from one party and everyone from the local level, the local government chairman come from a different party, it's bound to be some kind of friction. You either work with them or you get rid of them. And in this case, it does feel like we're getting rid of these people. And we've seen at least two of them, defect to the APC over the weekend. What do you make of this situation in Edo State and what it does to local government autonomy as well as the rule of the judiciary?
Well, because of my relationship with Edo State, my instinct is to defend Edo State and say to you, don't pick on Edo State like that, as if it's the evil of Nigeria. Edo State is a reflection of Nigeria overall. The idea of a winner takes it all in local government election and management is not alien. It's not something peculiar to just Edo State. It's happening now, and you know that's a bit of a shame that it's the one we're referring to. But overall, what leads to all these things is the, contrary to Ayo's elegant view about evolution, is the trajectory we're living. Is this barbaric idea of winner grabs everything off, where politics is about power and domination rather than service and banter of ideas. That's part of the problem we have. If we want to solve it, we need to go and solve that. We need to look into, now that this administration, and I think it's a good thing it has done, it is moving towards recognizing, consolidating the autonomy of local government. We all need to get interested in local government. We all need to be interested in the process of getting elected, in the status and gravitas of those who are the local government. You see, when this local government autonomy process came up, for example, I had a radical proposal for some of my friends. I said, can we all of a sudden decide of all the 774 local governments in Nigeria to get 200 professors to go and contest local government chairman, you know, to go there. Let us, for example, get former MDs of PLC companies to go back to their local government, so that all of a sudden, just to make a statement, all of a sudden, we make the mass of the local government the stronger one, and let people see what can be done. I did it in a few, you know, WhatsApp group, and you don't want to hear the answers. They're not things you can say on breakfast TV, but let's move ahead. So we need to reshape things in reality.
I mean, it does seem like such a confusing situation. But when it comes to the question of leadership, which I think is where I'm going to close my questioning on you today, the question of leadership in Nigeria and where we are as a people. Ayo had talked earlier about an evolution. Are we evolving, or are we just changing course, or are we devolving even, you know, as a people when it comes to leadership in this country? We've seen from the Tinubu administration attempts. That's what they are, attempts at, you know, following things to the letter. All right, this is how local governments are supposed to be run. They're supposed to be financially autonomous. Oh, this is how this is supposed to be done. You know, this is what this is supposed to be on paper, really. With everything that's going on in the country, and we see all these attempts, are these things that we can actually see manifest in the subnationals when it comes to the state governments and how they run themselves, especially with the issues up now, local government autonomy, state policing, crime and criminality, the tax issue. Are these things that we can actually see work at those levels, or are we hoping against hope?
No, I do not think we're hoping against hope. You know, anything that the social construct is feasible. If you put your mind to it, you just need two things: vision and vigor. You know, if somebody can conceive something, then others can implement it. You just have to make sure that it's implemented. We have to embrace it and follow it through. And in the process of visualizing, envisioning, and implementing, we also have to be conscious that there are some people who, out of interest or mischief, will not want progress to happen to us. And we have to factor how to deal with those people, factors and elements. I think that's part of what is missing in our reasoning. We have to know that there are some people who are enemies of progress, either because it favors them, or either because they have some malicious bone in them. For whatever reason, we have to include them in our process. So to your question, yes, it is not hope against hope. It is something doable. We just have to make sure it happens.
Leadership recruitment process has been an issue, is still an issue.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about getting retired professors and retired execs.
No, I mean, exit one.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's dynamic.
My mind just went straight to retired soldiers, retired soldiers, retired military men who will just be in those local governments and administering. It will definitely raise the stakes.
No, it will. You see, that's part of the error we did. That's part of the, now, I'm going to make some enemies this month. So let's go ahead. Part of the mistake we made in 1999 was not to draw a line to say anybody who has been in any way beneficiary or complice of the military regime that the Democrats fought against should not be part of this government. I think that at least suspend them for maybe for 20 years. We say in the next 20 years, anybody that can be traced in any way to be a collaborator, an accomplice, or beneficiary of the past military regime should not be part of it. You see, by not doing so, we lacked ethos. We didn't create the ethos and the passion for a new foundation. It was just a process that we went through. So this time around, don't bring retired military people. Although they've been there for 20 years under civil administration, so it will be unfair on them. I just feel that if you've been in the barracks for so long and wearing a uniform, maybe you should stay away from democracy for a while.
Or maybe after you retire, wait till 20 years before you contest. I don't know.
Or maybe you're going to do a course. You show your military democratic
exactly where my next question
maybe
is
you need
going.
to show
all political leaders, you know, in terms of the leadership recruitment, shouldn't they go through some kind of process, some kind of, because I always look at NIPS. I don't know what the course is like there, but I just know.
No, those courses are for people who already know. they are made for people already in power to give them more power.
Because if you look at the people
I totally agree with you. I think INEC perhaps should partner with some training institutions.
Is this something INEC should do, or the political parties? They are the ones who field candidates.
No, if you leave it to political parties, they won't do it themselves. You know, I think I think INEC should, as part of the process for being eligible, again, that's a constitutional thing. I think we need to say, for example, anybody that wants to run off it should have some kind of proof that they understand the Constitution and the concept of democracy. And perhaps the way to do it is for them to do, you know, a 3-4 weeks program and do a test and pass it.
Absolutely. Professor Anthony Killer, political scientist, public affairs analyst, and Jean Monnet, professor of strategy and development. Thank you so much for your time again this morning. Okay, from politics now to business.
Thanks, Aya. Well, hello and welcome. It's the first full trading week of 2025 right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's get to the top stories that set to agenda now. We see the price of oil increased slightly today, reaching its highest level since October. And this happened because investors are worried about how colder weather in the northern hemisphere will affect the demand for fuel. Brent crude futures, we've seen that up 0.2%, $76.66 a barrel. We're seeing both benchmarks starting the year quite strong, $74 for WTI. Staying above that $70 psychological level, 0.3% up. Also, China is trying to also, we're going to be looking at what's playing out that's in China to see how that plays into the oil market. But we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get to other stories, especially Naira. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Well, almost 2 months since its resumption of operation, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, that's Petron, say that the marketers and retailers of petroleum products will start lifting premium motor spirit from the Port Harcourt refinery company this week. According to the publicity secretary, that's Joseph Obele, since the refinery commenced operations in November, it has been supplying fuel to retail outlets owned by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited only. Though marketers still load fuel from the NNPCL, Obele clarified that the product marketers currently buy from the state-owned oil company, and which were mostly imported. And to other matters now, the Okitipupa Oil Palm PLC says it has embraced an ambitious modernization project with the acquisition of 4 mills to be installed in some of its 8 plantations located across 3 local government areas of Ondo State. The first and the second mills were built 50 and 34 years ago, respectively, with no additional one since then. So to complement the installation of the new mills and ensure a sustainable primary feeder for them, the company has finalized plans to plant nearly 750,000 to 1.2 million young high-yield oil palm seedlings on its 5,000-hectare grain field. This initiative is set to be flagged off by the Ondo State Governor, Dr. lucky that you are in the second quarter of 2025. Managing Director, Mr. Taiwo Dewole, stated that these measures are part of a strategic vision to reposition the company as a major player in the oil palm value chain. All right, let's get a check on the Naira now. See, Nigerian Naira gained ground against the US dollar last week, a positive sign for the local currency. And we see the NAFEX rate as a key benchmark in the foreign exchange market. That appreciated by about 4 Naira 50 kobo, closing at 1,535 Naira to the dollar. We see the NFM window, 1,534 Naira, up 0.44%. That was the close for Friday. So we see most of these asset classes starting the year strong. We see the Central Bank of Nigeria intervening, and that window, that's for the CBN window, closed at 1,535. Market analysts expect that this range will continue for this week, barring any unexpected matters in the markets. All right, let's go to our first conversation now. We'll get an outlook for the oil and gas sector, because it's facing a pivotal year in 2025, navigating a complex landscape of global energy transitions, domestic challenges, and evolving market dynamics. So, key areas of focus will be crude oil production, refining capacity, and continued impact of removal of fuel subsidies on the price of premium motor spirit. Well, joining us for this conversation is Mr. Madaki, is a managing partner, BBH Consulting. Joining me from our Abuja studio. Great to have you on the show. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you, Ladi. Nice to be here. Thank you.
So, given the, challenges in the oil and gas industry in 2024, from oil theft, pipe vandalism, declining production, what would you say are the realistic targets for, Nigeria's crude oil production in 2025? What's your crystal ball telling you?
Well, I think we have to exercise some level of cautious optimism, towards the industry in 2025. 2024 was particularly a turbulent year for the oil and gas sector. And, but towards the end of the year, the indications were that the oil production was inching up, and hovering between 1.7 to 1.8 million barrels of oil a day, which is a higher rate of production, than we've encountered in the country for quite some time. So, with the benchmark in the 2025 budget of 2.06 million barrels a day as the production target, that means that the regulators are looking at increasing production by about 200,000 barrels a day. Barring any challenges with security, and pipeline vandalism, and with sustained improvement in community relations in the Delta, I think that target is realizable, considering that there are a number of wells that are not producing, not because they are not able to produce, but because they've just not been brought on stream. So if the regulators get their act right, and they encourage, the producers to go and produce the limits, I think that it's clearly achievable. And we should be looking at an optimistic 2025, for the oil and gas sector in terms of production.
All right, so looking at the body language of the regulators at this time, from 2024 into this new year, are there any indicators that the regulators will actually get their act right in 2025?
Well, from pronouncements from the regulators, late in 2024, it looks like there is an upbeat, optimism on their part, to, ramp up their game and ensure that the industry is better regulated, So, but a lot, how that translates to actual production in the field, comes with its own, So, there is a lot more than just optimism, to see that translate to actual activity. And so, judging from the fact that there have been a lot of ups and downs in the industry, leading to a lot of skepticism on the part of, industry watchers, it remains to be seen how that optimism will play out, in terms of actual hard production, on the cards, especially because we don't seem to have much of an option apart from increasing production, because apart from Dangote refinery and the NNPC refineries in Port Harcourt and Warri that are coming on stream, there are also a number of other refineries coming on stream, BUA, the Boya refinery and the Watersmith refinery. By the time many of these other refineries come on and begin to need crude oil, the producers will not have any option but to tax themselves to produce crude in order to meet the domestic crude supply obligations. So I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And we have to encourage the regulators to do the best they can, to ensure that these things are done seamlessly.
And, talking about the refineries, coming on stream for the Warri refinery to the Port Harcourt refinery, in your view, is 2025 looking like the year, because you also mentioned other refineries that are coming on stream too. Is this the year that Nigeria starts to refine its own oil and continues that going into the future?
Yes, the outlook for refining in Nigeria appears to be quite optimistic, especially with Dangote refinery, which is actually the major catalyst for the activity we have recently witnessed in the industry. NNPC appears to finally be getting their act together, because there's a competitor in the private sector that is that has gotten its act right and is actually producing, rolling out products from its refinery in Lagos, and that is Dangote. So I believe that, things are going in the right direction as far as refining is concerned in Nigeria, and this should have happened, many, many years ago. But as they always say, it's better late than never. We also hope that, with all of these activities coming on, with when the market is better supplied, then the competition that we hope will come on board, which will drive down the prices, for the benefit of the consuming public, will happen, But it's still a wait and see game. But I see the the market being properly supplied with locally produced petroleum products, which should have a positive impact on the economy going forward.
What are you seeing for subsidy payments? Is that truly gone?
Well, from all indications, there will be no point paying any subsidy, talking about subsidy anymore, because the supply source is no longer uniform. When we had just one supply source in NNPC, the process was so opaque that nobody actually knew what to believe anymore. But with Dangote refinery producing and supplying and selling directly to the marketers, and with NNPC also producing and selling to marketers, it will now be very difficult to justify that there is any form of subsidy. In any event, the government has said that subsidy is gone, and even though subsidy didn't quite go when they said subsidy was gone, what we have seen in the way the prices have been moving in the market lately, is an indication that subsidy has actually gone, and that market forces are beginning to influence how the prices will be running. So we have to watch to see how that goes, and hope that the prices continue to come down, as the market is better supplied and as the market becomes a more perfect competition, between the different players, So as far as subsidy is concerned, yes, I believe anybody who is making a claim for subsidy now will actually have a hard time convincing anybody that there was any need for that,
And what do you think we should all be doing at this time, the start of a new year? What do you think the regulators should be doing? What do you think the refiners should be doing so that Nigerians can pay sub 500 naira at some point this year for PMS?
Well, 500 naira, per liter for PMS will be very optimistic. But, of course, the whole world runs on optimism. I think that, the midstream and downstream regulatory authority needs to be very active in policing the industry to make sure that the refineries are running optimally, and that the whatever bottlenecks there may exist to competition should be removed. So that the market can get the most benefit, from the different, refiners putting their products in the market and wanting to gain market share. The same way we saw competition reduce the cost of services in the telecoms industry is what we are expecting will happen in the oil and gas sector, in the downstream, for supply of PMS and the other products in the value chain. So, yes, I think that prices will continue to go down, but whether we are going to be able to achieve a 500 naira per liter price for PMS in 2025, remains to be seen. That's overly optimistic, but who knows? It's early days yet, but the more the other refineries that are expected to come on stream, and supply in the different regions, thereby reducing, the cost of haulage, we should be able to see some of those efficiencies translate into lower pump prices. But as it is right now, it's difficult to predict a particular price, for, per liter for petrol. But I think it will be realistic to expect that the prices will continue to taper down, no matter how marginally, it does, yeah.
All right, we'll definitely all be looking out and tracking all these prices. Thank you so much. It was great having you. That was Chief Madaki Ame, the managing partner at BBH Consulting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ladi. Nice being here.
All right, we'll take a break now. We'll also get an outlook. It's the month of outlooks at this point. We'll get a check of what's going to happen for the Naira, the economy, and inflation. That's at the moment. Just stay with us. All right, so 2025 presents both challenges and opportunities for the Nigerian economy. It's time to examine the key economic indicators, including inflation, interest rates, and exchange rates, to assess the overall economic health of the nation. It's the month of outlooks, as I said before. Let's hear now from Cardinal Stone what to expect. Joining us for this conversation, we have Baboye Olaolu, who is a lead economist at Cardinal Stone, joining me right here in the studio. Good to have you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you, and thank you for having me.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
had you on the show, and finally we're doing it in person after a long time.
I'm excited to be here.
How's 2025 looking already for you?
Well, it's great. It's the time to relax, to get back to work. So basically, the first few days has been a time of relaxation.
Still laid back, a little bit.
Kind of.
All right. So looking at 2024, there was the same old headwinds from inflation and MPR. We see the central bank over 850 basis point hike.
That's correct.
Trying to tame inflation. And I see some data you put there. If you're looking at the flow of inflation and MPR, if you can put that up for me, you see the way inflation, we've seen inflation on the rise, MPR also, matching that. There you have it. And you already have expectations for December 2024, but it's looking like it's somewhat stable. That's inflation. What's the data telling you?
Okay, so there will be slight increase in December 2024, right? It's festive induced activity, a lot of buying things for Christmas. So the expectation is that inflation will close the year, that's 2024, at around 35%. right? But
35%.
Around 35%, certainly, right? But coming into 2025, we think that the dynamics will change. We think that inflation, on an average, will moderate modestly. So we're looking at an average of 29%, 30% on an average for 2025, compared to 33% average that we're expecting for 2024, right? Why the moderation? Not because the dynamics has materially changed, just that some of the pressure point that we had in 2024 are somewhat reducing. For example, exchange rates, which devalued by about 40% in the course of 2024, is likely to be more stable, right, in the course of the year because of the effort of the CBN, the improved flows that we're seeing, foreign investment excitement is likely to keep the naira modestly, we're going to see modest devaluation compared to what we've seen in the last 2 years. That should have a positive pass-through to inflation. Secondly, PMS prices are likely to be much more stable, or energy prices generally are likely to be much more stable, right? I heard the last speaker before I came up, he was talking about, PMS prices. I think that if we have Trump come on board, that forces oil price down, and we begin to see FX stability, then you should expect a pass-through to PMS prices, right? PMS prices are currently being sold less than 1,000 naira in Lagos, compared to the over 1,000 that we had some months back, right? We don't expect a massive appreciation, we expect more stability. Now, that stability is comforting for transport inflation, will pass through to food and with core inflation, right? And then base effects. So the combination of these three factors are likely to keep inflation slightly lower compared to this year. But post-2025, when you go to 2026, 2027, we might begin to see inflation come down to about 20% levels, right, which is a level that the CBN appears to be fine with as of the last communication.
Right, and we see optimism around the naira starting the year quite stable and strong. Following from 2024, we've seen the NFM and parallel market. They have converged. Yeah, they converged in 2024, and they've been moving along the same line towards the end. So, is this the year the naira strengthens, 2025? Okay,
so the argument for naira stability has never...
we shouldn't talk about strengthening, we should just talk about stability.
Yes, that's the focus.
All right.
Stability and reduced pressure. Right, the conversation around naira stability has never been that strong, right? For few reasons. Number one, we are seeing a lot of foreign investors becoming excited about the country. I was having a conversation this morning with my firm, and I made them to realize that historically, this is the best time, or this is the time that foreign investors are so confident in the central bank compared to historical disposition, right? They love the policy that the CBN is doing, they love the communication, they love the clarity. So clearly, it's bringing a lot of encouragement to them. And we're seeing a lot of foreign flows. And you recall, before Cardozo came in, we had backlogs. About $7 billion exited this economy last year. They felt they wanted to leave. It's fine. There was easy repatriation of funds, no restrictions. It's been long ahead of that. And then we also had a lot of reinvestment, which means investors are confident in the economy. Secondly, on what is driving naira stability, or what should drive naira stability, is the recent electronic FX window that the CBN created. It gives a feel of what happened in 2017. In 2017, when the I&E window was created, what we saw was that naira appreciated both at the parallel market and at the official window from 390 to 360, and was stable at 360 between 2017, April, May, till few months before COVID. Right? This is giving a feel of that again, that we might begin to see foreign investors becoming more confident, because the system that was created has brought clarity to the FX transaction. It has reduced the magnitude of speculations that we're seeing. So clearly, it's going to be a good one to look for. The only thing is that the window or the system is yet to be tested. When we begin to see pressure from regular demand pressure, if the system is able to withstand that, then this is comforting. Then we have other factors like the fact that Nigeria has greater access to dollars, be it from dollar domestic bond, be it from euro bonds. We had book order of $9 billion. That's exciting, right? We have reserve that is growing. All these factors gives a feel that the conversation for naira stability cannot be this strong, right? It's super strong compared to...
I guess we're riding on confidence at this point. All right, let's look at FPI and FDI now. So, hot money is getting hotter. That's looking at foreign portfolio investment. We're seeing for November 2024, that outpaced FDIs by a whole lot. So talk to me about the advantages of FPIs outweighing FDI, even though we would prefer FDI.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so it's good to provide a bit of context there. First, the actions of the monetary authorities will always influence that of the FPIs, the hot money. The actions or the combined action of the monetary authority and the fiscal authority will influence what you will see from FDIs. Now, the FPIs, like I said, are gaining more confidence in what the CBN is doing. And we've rightly mentioned in the past, the fiscal authority will like the fact that they are coming with a lot of reforms. Now, these reforms, they typically take a significant period of time, mostly medium term to long term, before the benefits fully crystallizes. So you might see a 5-year period, you might see a 6-year period or more. Take, for example, in early 2000, there was telecommunication reforms and other reforms that the government put in place. The benefits came some years after. Now, it is those reform benefits that will inspire what the FDIs will do. For now, the benefits are still not yet to be fully, they are yet to fully crystallize. Hence, FDIs are still not sure what's going on. So for now, they will most likely be on the sideline, observing things and seeing how things will go. But if you see these reforms, from the fiscal reforms, from the FX reforms, from the overall economic reform, if we see progressive or stay in the course on that reform, then they will be encouraged to come.
So at some point, what do you think we should be doing now, short-term moves, to allow FDI, that's foreign direct investment, somewhat outpace or maybe have a level playing ground with the FPI?
So for now, we should not be bothered about bringing them at par. FPIs will most likely continue to outpace at the moment. What we need to do is stay the course, continue with the reforms, stay it. It might not be comfortable now, but it's short-term pains for long-term benefits. So stay the course, and certainly they will come back.
All right, let's look at the stock market now. What are you seeing for 2025? It was a great performance
exactly
in 2024. Does that continue, or do you see short-term pullbacks for the all-share index? That's for stock market.
So we really think that the stock market is biased to the upside. We're looking at a return of 40% for 2025, right? We think that, number one, from a macro perspective, the sector that we think will benefit the most or will outpace the most this year will be the oil and gas space, right? So we expect that pass-through to affect both the upstream players, the downstream players, the likes of Aradel, the likes of Total, the likes of Seplat. Secondly, we like stocks with corporate actions. Presco, they have an acquisition that they did in Ghana. It's yet to be consolidated in their books. Seplat's acquisition was recently completed. You begin to see the benefits this year. We also like stocks that are currently deleveraging, the likes of WAPCO, they deleverage, the likes of MTN, renegotiating their TOA contracts, the likes of Airtel. Airtel is reducing its old co as, paid off its old co debt. They are reducing their OPCO debt, right? We also like dividend-paying stocks, the likes of banks, solid dividends. So we think that all this will drive a lot of positive sentiment in the equities market.
All right, we'll keep watching and see maybe if we see some kind of outperformance at some point. But thank you so much for giving us, I'm sure you guys had to look into your crystal balls really well to give us this outlook. That was Baboye Olaolu, lead economist, Cardinal Stone. Great having your perspective today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. Those are the expectations. This should help you, somehow see how you can balance your portfolio so you can profit and have a better year than 2024 in 2025. Remember, you get all of that information right here on our business shows on Channels Television. That's it from me on Business Morning. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things over to the Sunrise Daily team.
As we move forward into 2025, we cannot afford to rest on our laurels. The evolving security landscape demands innovation and adaptability. We will prioritize strengthening cybersecurity, countering terrorism, enhancing community policing, and professionalizing the force. Our officers' welfare will remain at the forefront, ensuring that they have the tools, resources, and support needed to excel. As strategic managers, Your leadership will be key to the success of these initiatives. The performance of the Nigerian Police Force in 2025 depends on your ability to equip officers with the skills, mindset, and tools necessary to meet emerging threats. Together, we will continue to transform the Nigerian Police Force into a modern, effective, and trusted institution.
30,000 plus arrested in 2024 by the police. Well, thank you for staying with us on Sunrise Daily. Our next conversation is one that indeed touches every Nigerian. Policing. From addressing the challenges of insecurity to the critical task of rebuilding public trust, the policing question remains high, both urgent and complex. But then, it's the police. Well, how about policing? Is there a difference between police and policing? That's one of the questions that that our guest this morning posed to me when we came in this morning. So please help me welcome Sheyi Aditaya, who is CEO of Eons Intelligence, a leading voice in intelligence and security strategy in the country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ayo. Good morning.
First of all, I mean, what's the difference between police and policing?
Yeah, police is an agency responsible for maintaining law and order in the country.
Isn't their job policing?
Yeah, they are part of the policing mechanism.
Okay.
We are all responsible for policing the country, the people. It's not something that the police alone can do. When you say police, it means that putting people in check. And there are different layers in the country that helps to put people in check. From the parent to the community leaders, to the traditional institutions, to all the institutions within each community to ensure that the laws and order are maintained. Remember that the laws and orders are not only limited to the ones in the Constitution. Each community have their own basic, rules that they expect people living in that environment to follow, and going against it might actually probably put them at risk. So, and it is the aggregate of all these efforts that help us to have a well-policed nation. So, when we look at what the police is doing right now, they require the support from all the layers of our social strata to help in ensuring that they get their work done. So they need people to give them information. They need people to support them. They need even the community. There are areas where police can just go and make arrests, as it is in Nigeria. They need the support of the locals. And there are places where they actually need to tell the traditional institutions that we need to make arrests there. We need your support. They themselves will go there, pick the person and hand them over to the police. Why? At times it could be the terrain. At times it could be the complexity, of that particular environment. So when you talk about policing generally, it involves each and every one of us.
Now, but that's not the way the Nigerian, sees it. And maybe this is education that every one of us needs.
And the more reason why we need to talk about.
Absolutely. So now we have an agency tasked with the responsibility of policing the nation. Now, as you said, and rightly so, a good number of times there's always been that call for people to support. But then there have also been times when people offered information and it blew back in their faces, particularly in really troubled areas in the country. When you say people should give information to the police, how are they insulated?
Well, we have to be honest with ourselves. So much has gone wrong with our police structure. And it's not what one IG can... we've seen successive IG try to do something about it, but the core of this decadence is so deep that a radical approach may be required. I would say some countries, attempting to do that. As it is today, we need it complete, a total, overhaul. When I mean overhaul, I'm not saying remove everybody, but looking at every structure in the current Nigerian police agency right now, as it is, and we'll try to weed out those that are having issues. And I had a conversation with someone, I think about 2 years ago, and I said, I think the best way we can go about this is one. If we can start by reducing, taking out those who have had disciplinary issues. Even though whether they were reprimanded or they were reduced in rank in the last 5 years, just ask them to go. That will create room for us to be able to inject new people into the system, where the training structure will now be done in such a way that they not only go through the Nigerian Police Academy or for Nigerian Police, the training school system. They will do their mandatory police training. They go into the Nigerian Army Depot, where they will also be able to learn about what the Nigerian military stands for, what they do, what their doctrine is about, a specially curated curriculum of the Nigerian Army that will be introduced to them, and also finally come to the DSS facility and have understanding of what intelligence is all about. This is what that is going to build, number one. It will help them to understand how other agencies work. Two, it will help them to be able to know how to collaborate with other agencies. It will also help them to understand that Nigerian police cannot do the work alone. There are many aspects of what they think that they know, but the other agencies have the real strength in those areas, and there is need for collaboration. It will not help that over the years they'll be able to grow, crops of new leadership. I mean, potential leadership in Nigerian police that will understand how to work, build intelligence. Because one of the major problems we have in Nigeria, that security is not working, is interagency's lack of cooperation. That synergy is not there. And you always say this when there is a new government, because each service chief wants to impress the commander-in-chief. And we're seeing that monster rearing his ugly head right now in Nigeria. That cooperation is not there as we speak right now. And as long as we continue to do the same thing over and over and over, we'll continue to get the same results.
Why is the collaboration difficult? I remember more than twice the previous commander-in-chief of the armed forces, President Muhammad Buhari, called meetings asking for interagency collaboration. Even this president has spoken about collaboration so frequently, like it's the only oil that will make the engine of state work. And so what is it that is making that collaboration difficult?
Number one, I think I still put it on the boxy stuffs on the desk of the president. It's not just about saying it or calling them to meeting. It's about putting monitoring mechanism in place to ensure that that is actually effective, and also make parameters for measuring their performance based on the level of cooperation, as in giving cooperation optimal, this in the appraisal, of how I see that you are performing. It's not about you coming to say, oh, we've decimated this bandits. We've decimated. The DSS will do the work and say, okay, they've done this. The next thing you see, the army saying that they also decimated the same. You see the police, and then you still see the same group still carrying out, kidnappings and banditry attack maybe a day after or 48 hours after, this agency. So what have you decimated? The truth is that the DSS will be having the head and the body, the police will be having the hand, the Nigerian Army will be having the leg. And all of them are having different parts of the same, monster. And at the end of the day, you won't be able to aggregate all this intelligence or this information into one to be able to have, a strong and effective response that is expected. And that is the issue as we speak today. Everybody, they are struggling because they want to be seen to be working. And we should not forget this. Our doctrine, our training has a lot of problem, has a lot to do with this. Why? Because we have this protectionist ideology where everybody wants to protect his own agency. So when you are being trained, they tell you that, oh, Nigerian Army is the best. Even within the armed forces, the army sees itself as the best and the most powerful. The Air Force, may not really agree with the Nigerian Army, and you see some kind of, even within the armed forces, not to talk of, the Nigerian Army and the police. Nigerian Army, if you see a soldier, they don't want to listen or they don't believe that they can be arrested by police, even when they have committed an offense. Even right before police officer, they try to arrest them, they resist. And there's an time you see some people moving soldiers from the barrack to attack a police station because what? They feel that no, you can't insult a captain because it's an officer. A lot has to do with our training, and we have to put it in the curriculum of each of these agents for them to understand that you are just part of a total. You are not the total sum. You are not whole. Without all this agency, you are not complete. And they also need to understand the importance of this other agency. You see, when we're talking about policing, look at the issues that makes the headlines. Majorly now terrorism, banditry. Those are the issues that make headlines. These are the things that most times people see, and at some point now we are not really bothered anymore. The other issues that hardly make the headline are probably traffic robbery. Those are the major issues that an average people down south here are concerned about. By 6 p.m. now, you are driving in Lagos, you are in traffic, your concern is that, could there be a traffic robbery? Will everything that I possess now, will it be taken away from me? They are concerned. So, and these are not the things that one agency alone can do, because when the police want to fight, I saw the Inspector General of Police now talking about, cybercrime. Cybercrime is huge. It's bigger than armed robbery. Before, there was a time in Nigeria, major problem was armed robbery. Armed robbery is almost non-existent in Nigeria now, because the monies are not in the homes now. The monies are in the bank, and they are being done through the wire. And cybercrime is really, really big in Nigeria. Okay. Can the Nigerian police handle it? No. Look at the US, for example. It's the fault of the FBI, not the police. Because you need to actually build structural resources and assets to be able to do that. So the police cannot be running after traffic robbery, running after arson, running after affray, running after those who are trying not to obey traffic rules and the rest. And then they still also want to build capacity. Not that they are going to divorce, police will divorce itself from, but we need to really understand. So when police have people or reports of people, they should take it to, if there is an agency that has the capacity, take it to them, so that they can take what you have, add it to what they have. They can be able to build, robust response to that.
There are so many issues to look at. I'm looking at several issues that have made the headlines with people expected that it's the police that would take the lead, and unfortunately, it will seem like even the police sometimes is a victim.
Yeah.
So in a situation where the police is a victim, where is public trust? Because already, even as we speak, it will seem like the police doesn't have much confidence of the people. But a situation where even the police that is not trusted by the people is a victim.
Well, it's part of the hazard of the job, and one of the reasons why we must appreciate our police officers. You are stopping, just like look at the United States. When you see at times when you see police in the US, they say they are afraid of their own safety. That's why they fired first. Because you don't know what the other person is carrying. You've just received a call now and say there is an attack somewhere, you are going there. You don't even know whether there's going to be an ambush on the way. We've seen them being ambushed. So it's part of the hazard of the job. And we are not unaware of the fact that at times training has a lot to do with the occasion, exposure that they do put to themselves. Most times when you see those policemen being shot in their car, it's because they were relaxed. They were not vigilant, they are not attentive. And check, some of those policemen have not gone for training in the last 10 years.
Oh dear. Okay. Anyway, there's so many other issues. I'm pretty sure that Kayla has some of them as well. Kayla, go ahead.
Yes, indeed. I was just taking a look at the police WhatsApp group, the Nigerian Police Force WhatsApp group, just to see how much work has been done just between yesterday and today. The abandoned Prado Jeep that they found in the nation's capital. They smashed a kidnapping ring gang in Imo State. 4 kidnapped victims and 17 others arrested for murder. That's also making rounds on their WhatsApp group. The FCT police recovered an abandoned day-old baby. So that's just between yesterday and today. So in many ways, the police are doing quite a lot of work. But it does seem like there's an underlying problem. Yes, we've talked about the capacity of the police to handle all of these things. Their number has been an issue. Their remuneration has been an issue. But is there another problem And I see many people alluding to the fact that, look, when it comes to policing a place, no matter how much policing you do, you cannot remove poverty from the land. You know, as long as people need to resort to crime, you know, you can't eliminate crime totally. But when it becomes the only other option for the person, how much more work can the police actually do? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Okay, to me, poverty is not an excuse for a police officer to become criminally minded. There are other civil servants, other government employees too, that are within the same salary range. And if everybody has to use poverty, then everybody will become criminal. I think more has to do with orientation, how we recruit the people that we currently have in the forces. So we need to look at the recruitment process. We need to look at the training. Then we also need to look at the internal control. I think because of the large number of the manpower within the Nigerian police, internal control is a very big issue. Very big issue in the sense that you see officers doing some things and their superior officers are not even aware. There's a case that I'm currently looking into with the SWAT team in Adiniji Adele. You know, what those officers did went entirely wrong. I'm sure that the officer in charge of the SWAT team there is not even aware of what his men are doing. You know, and those are the issues because the
Tayo, just so we can get a correction. Hello, Mr. Adetayo.
Yeah.
I wasn't referring to the police officers themselves. I'm talking about the people that they're policing. I'm talking about the community and the poverty that is rife in those communities. Yes, I know that poverty is not an excuse. But if we have that underlying problem, how much work can the police actually do? Exactly. So the more, you see, if you, some years ago, the former president then, President Olusegun Obasanjo, came up with what's called Grand Strategy for National Security. And I remember vividly that he tried to build nexus between law and order, economic development, and law and order. That without law and order, there cannot be economic development. Without economic development, there cannot be law and order. So if there is poverty in the land, the crimes and criminality will increase in its lips, and it will be difficult, or it will portend, you know, great challenges to the Nigerian police to be able to handle that. And that is the reason why they are also calling for increase in manpower. And I know that government is trying to meet up with that, which is also challenging because government is not making enough money to meet up the budgetary requirement. But at the same time, where we need to now take care of this gap is what Ayo mentioned before, building trust, being able to work with the community. And I'm using this to also challenge the public relations department of the Nigerian police. I know my friend has been doing the first PRO. Muiwa has been doing a lot in that regard, but apart from Muiwa, there is this bright guy, I think he's in Delta Edo, and Benjamin in Lagos. I'm not really seeing much from other PPROs beyond coming to, you know, parade those who have been arrested. Now, let me give an example on how you can build trust. For example, the IGP has said that all checkpoints on the highways has been removed. But suddenly you are driving on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway or Shagamu Bini Expressway, and then you are seeing checkpoints. People will become afraid. The first question that will come to their mind is that, are these legal or are they illegal? Am I running into an ambush? And if the Commissioner of Police in that state had obtained approval from the IGP based on, you know, occurrences in a state, it's important for the PRO to actually release a bulletin to the people to say, because of so and so, the Nigerian Police, Ogun State Police Command, will be mounting roadblocks along. So when you see those roadblocks are legal. So when people are approaching, they expect that they will meet policemen on that road, and that will build trust. But when you don't do that, and people are driving and they get to a point and they see policemen, some of them will become agitated. And when they are stopping them, that's why you see all those altercations happening. Because to them, IGP have said roadblock dismantled. Then the next thing they are seeing roadblock. To them, they'll believe that this are illegal. And in real sense, they might not be illegal. But so there's that break in communication between the Nigerian police and the people. So maybe more investment has to be made in public relations department, because the Nigerian police really need that department to be effective, to be up and doing, because it will help them to be able to build that trust and that responsibility. So which means that robust training has to go there.
Let me tell you, in the U.S., if the police in the U.S. are going to mount roadblock, they are going to release a bulletin. They are going to issue an APB if they are issuing, and the media will immediately take it up. You see it on Channel 7, Channel 6, and say that police are mounting roadblocks, they are searching because there is certain things. And roadblocks are not meant to be permanent. Even when you are announcing to them that there's going to be a roadblock on this highway between this area and this area, let them know whether it's going to be for 1 month or it's going to be for 3 weeks. If you are going to extend it, the public relations department should also still come out to tell the people, for certain reasons, we've gotten the approval of the Inspector General of Police to extend it. But when you don't do that, what the people will be saying is that the IGP is saying something and the policemen are doing something else. I'm just giving you an example. I have several examples abound, and I think that as much as we are underrating the importance of that department, they have a lot to do in bridging that trust gap between the people. When the people trust police enough, they will provide those information. You don't need to put policemen on every street in Nigeria. The people can do that legwork for the Nigerian police, and they can have that information because they themselves are informed. They know that police will not do anything without them being informed. So when they see something wrong, they say, no, this is wrong, and they know the number to call, they will call. Another thing that will also be there is that those that will be responsible for receiving this information from the people should also bring that element of trust, the trust of confidentiality, trust of source protection, so that people will know that whatever information that is being given will not be traced back to them.
I mean, that's a very important dynamic that you mentioned, that trust deficit. I mean, when we talk about the police, sometimes it feels like we're going round and round, like we say the same things over and over and over again. Manpower, funding, building trust with the people, capacity. I mean, we've been saying the same things over and over again. And like I pointed out earlier, we have seen the police do a lot of work, but more needs to be done. I mean, if we're looking at some of the things that happened over the weekend, for instance, the Mieti Alakatu breeders leader was killed in his state. You know, we still hear about kidnappings. In fact, we just, after the Minister of State for Defense announced that mining activities were going to kick off in Zamfara, we started getting reports from the miners there that they had been sent letters to the community saying, oh, we're going to attack this place. And when these things happen, we always look to the military as opposed to the police. Meanwhile, the truth is, for these sorts of things, the police is the first line that's supposed to handle that before we start to call for reinforcements. I mean, just so we don't say the same things over and over again, is there something else that can be done? What are we missing when it comes to effective policing, especially in state levels? Is it just these same things that we complain about all the time, or is there an underlying issue that hasn't been addressed?
I don't think that it has to do with, I think we have all the information needed. It's just about implementation. Another issue here is the issue that has been raised over time. It might have its own downside to it. That is the state police structure. But I'm a strong proponent for state policing, and because I believe that the police as we carry it today is humongous, and it is so big to be easily managed, and because of that, supervision, internal control becomes a major issue. Disciplinary structure, the disciplinary structure within the police is not devolved, you know, to the bottom, considering the large number of men. If this discipline can be initiated and completed at a division level, we're talking of divisions. Some divisions are having 200, 300 men. That is huge. One DPO managing such number. So if you can initiate discipline and hand disciplinary action at its level, then there will be effectiveness in internal control. So
you're looking at it, breaking it all down, devolving.
Yeah, because it is so big.
Absolutely.
It's hereby, you know, disciplinary actions and measures will now be taken up again. It makes that supervision and effectiveness to be non-effective as much as we expect.
With the conversations that have gone on so far, let's just hope that at least it will be going to the next level now, as opposed to staying where we were. Thank you so much for this morning, Mr. Sheyi Adetayo, CEO of Eons Intelligence. Well, some messages for about a minute before we go. This one is from Adekoyo Fetuga, who was talking about our chat. Says, in road construction, let's prioritize non-metallic manhole covers made of composite materials like fiberglass or polymer composites, high-density polythene, that's HDPE, and or other plastics. They are resistant to corrosion, theft-resistant, and lightweight. It seems Professor Enakena weighed in on the same issue, Kayla.
He says the vandalism of these manhole covers will continue if this metal dealers market is not closed. It is disheartening that while the government at all levels spends public funds to provide amenities for Nigerians, some criminally minded individuals steal these amenities and sell them to dubious traders by disregarding the danger their actions pose to their fellow citizens. And Festus Akimboyewa has this message. He says, sadly, I think he's talking politics here, sadly, it is evident that many people in our political parties, especially the big ones, don't have similar ideas and beliefs, which is why they blatantly jump from one party to another. Time to sanitize our political parties. Thank you all so much for your messages there. And that's what we'll wrap it up on Sunrise Daily today. Have a great week ahead. Be safe, be careful, be mindful of those manhole covers that have been stolen over the past week or so, especially in the central business district of the nation's capital, while we get the FCT minister to do the right thing about that situation. Have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Megwa.
And I'm Ayo Makine. You have a pleasant one.